Nobody look.
So we have a couple QR codes. So a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now, maybe we did a project for the Digital Museum of Canada about this place. For years, the impact on national and civic identity, how important it was to the Victoria, Canada as a nation, tourism, and its science that was done. So you want to make that QR code on your phone, link you there. And then the next one is there was a biography of John Stanley Platt, the guy who built the telescope, that was published 4 or 5 years ago. So this year we released a 2-hour documentary on that book. And that is available from Tech TV for streaming. And that's where that QR code will take you. So it's a kind of it's a really good story. It's an amazing story. He's an incredible guy. His vision, his passion for science, all made this happen. And then the second part shows that passion for doing things in space and on silver. Canada is 1 billion astronomy. Okay. Our speaker tonight is Lillico from the DinoLab. If you see the title, Kay knows a thing or two about bad days. Now we've all had the feeling of I had a bad day today. Right? You may get a parking ticket, you might forget your umbrella, and if you're Victorian winter, that may be the best. But Kay is here to remind us that nothing compares to a 6-mile-wide asteroid crashing into Earth and wiping out most of your family. All your dinosaurs disappear. So that's a bad day, right? Now, Kay works at our DinoLab here in Victoria, and she helps bring fossils and the stories they hold back to life. Kay has a biology degree from the University of Victoria and a lifelong fascination with ancient creatures. Kay has made a career out of turning distant bones into wonder and excitement. Woo! So, yeah, you give Kay some bones and a bit of dust, and she'll give a story that will fascinate you. And for all ages. You might have been here for the kids show or not, but boy, the questions afterwards, everybody was so excited and engaged in this process. And unlike Hollywood, she promises these dinosaurs will stay extinct. You don't have to worry about coming to life. We're not throwing dinosaurs off in the dome or anything like that. Her talk tonight is entitled Dinosaurs to Dust. Bad days have a habit of getting worse before they get better, as do mass extinction events. Unpack the before, during, and after of the KT extinction event. Are we going to talk about that?
I think I'll touch on it.
Yeah, talk about all the non-avian dinosaurs off the planet, leaving the way clear for mammals to have their shot. So there's the upside. The mammals came up because of the thing hitting the Earth. So buckle up. Days look take us on the rise of the glory days of dinosaurs to their very worst day, and ultimately to the rise of us. So please join me in welcoming Kay.
Doesn't matter to me, honestly. Whatever works on your side of things.
I'll hit the managing button and start.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dennis. Now, some high expectations were set there. I hope I can live up to those. We'll try and keep your day not quite as bad as what the dinosaurs had to contend with. So thank you so much for that introduction. Again, my name is Kay. I am a science communicator at DinoLab. So we are actually a fossil restoration museum right in Victoria. We're Victoria's best kept secret. So even though some of you are from Victoria, you may never have heard of us before. Our bread and butter is getting dinosaurs, marine reptiles, mammoths, and all sorts of other prehistoric creatures when they're still in the rock or the matrix, and we have the fun job of freeing the dinosaurs. We spend years chiseling away all of that rock and matrix, And then for any of the missing pieces, we will actually 3D print them, just like my buddy Victoria here, to fill in all of the gaps and have a complete prehistoric specimen. From there, we will build all of the metal armature to elevate that creature into the kind of the more dynamic poses that they would have been in life. And then they go off to museums all over the entire world. So if you traveled around, you may have actually seen some of our specimens. Victoria, the real version of her, for example, she has been all over the United States. She has been to Korea. She has been to Australia. And now she's back in action right here in Victoria. So I highly recommend coming for a tour. We have a full museum space where we run guided tours, allowing you to come in and touch and hold and handle the specimens, as well as actually have a seat in the technician's chair and help us chisel away some of that rock. I know, it's wild. I still don't believe that we let people do it. It's incredible. It is incredible. We will be able to chat more about that after the fact, and my colleague Bentley is out there with some real fossils. He's in the front area if anybody wants to touch and hold some after the fact. But without further ado, I think we should talk about a really bad day for the dinosaurs. So, our story both starts and ends with a mass extinction event, as all great stories do, I am wont to say. If we go back about 252 million years into the Permian, we actually don't have any dinosaurs at all, to start off with things. What you see here, they're creatures that are often referred to or lumped in with the dinosaurs. You might see things like moss chops that you're familiar with if you play any prehistoric games, or we have Dimetrodon, the sail-backed lizard, a creature that is often referred to erroneously as a dinosaur. It is one of the ones you can find in the miscellaneous dino tube packs, which make it extremely, extremely confusing. But these are just a sampling of the creatures that were widespread before the time of the dinosaurs. Now, during the time of the Permian, there was an event that happened that far exceeds what happened that took out the dinosaurs. There was a mass extinction event about 252 million years ago that we refer to as the Great Dying. It's not great, not fantastic for the creatures 252 million years ago. Approximately 95% of life on Earth went extinct at this point in time. 252 million years ago is a very, very, very long way back in time. That means the scientific evidence makes it a little bit difficult to know exactly what caused that mass extinction event. It is definitely possible that it was an extraterrestrial event, and I'm not talking about ET, I'm not talking about aliens, I'm talking about something like a meteorite. But as I said, since it's so far back in time, it's hard to know for sure. What we can tell from the fossil record is that there was a huge spike in CO2 and a huge drop in oxygen, which is often indicative of a massive meteorite impact on Earth. While we may never know for sure exactly what happened, as science continues to evolve and as new sites are uncovered, we might get some clues that tell us exactly what happened. The thing about mass extinction events, though, is that they do level the playing field for new life on Earth. When the time of the Permian came to an end at the Great Dying, this allowed for the earliest dinosaurs to begin to evolve into all of the hundreds and thousands of creatures that we call dinosaurs today, and that we have throughout history. This didn't happen overnight, though. Evolution is a long-standing process that can take millions and millions and millions of years to get to the creatures that we tend to deem a little bit more recognizable in our Tyrannosaurus rex. The earliest dinosaurs evolved about 230 million years ago, a little bit over 20 million years after that effect of the Great Dying. And life on Earth looked very different 230 million years ago. As you can see, this is the geological mass during the Triassic, the first epoch in the Mesozoic, which is the time of the dinosaurs. This is what we refer to as Pangea. Does anybody know what Pangea actually means? It means all land. Often, scientific words will tell you everything you need to know about what they're referring to. So during the time of the Triassic, most of the continents were a little bit different than how we tend to see them today, and that they were filtered together in one massive landmass. A little bit longer after that, during the time of the Jurassic period, you can see that the continents have started to drift apart a little bit into what we refer to as Gondwana and Laurasia. The Jurassic period is when we really start to get into the height of the dinosaurs. This is when we get creatures like Allosaurus, Stegosaurus, Brontosaurus, I know we have a Brontosaurus fan here, and Apatosaurus. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, yes, I did not misspeak. Brontosaurus is back. As of about 11 years ago, all of us Land Before Time fans are thrilled by this. Although I will say that the scientific literature changes almost constantly, almost overnight. So 5 or 10 years from now, Brontosaurus could lose its standing as a dinosaur. Please don't come for my head if that science changes. I have no influence over that, I'm sorry to say. Most of our talk today is going to be focused on the Cretaceous period, the most recent epoch of the Mesozoic, of the time of the dinosaurs. This is the time where you can start to see that the continents are getting very close to what we're a little bit more familiar with. And you can start to see that this is actually where we get the dinosaurs that we know the most about. Generally speaking, in terms of time periods in the fossil record, we tend to know more about the more recent time periods because the land masses have stayed a little bit more consistent. One of the reasons that we really don't know that much about the Great Dying and the effect of that is because the land has changed so much in that time. We know a lot about the mass extinction event that we're going to talk about today, which is the one at the end of the Cretaceous, because the land masses at that point are quite similar to where we're at today. It gives us a lot more clues as to exactly what would have happened. Now, if we could transport back in time to, let's say, 70 million years ago in the middle of the United States, in Montana or Wyoming, what do you think it would have looked like? A little bit underwater, absolutely. Not all of North America was underwater, but the middle of North America, as you can see, had something called the Western Interior Seaway, a massive inland ocean. So, right in the middle of North America, we don't get just massive dinosaur fossils, we get a whole host of amazing marine creatures as well. It is a host for incredible, incredible fossilization. The area that I like to reference quite a bit is called the Hell Creek Formation. Has anybody heard of Hell Creek before? Yeah, a couple folks. Excellent. We've got some true blue dinosaur nerds in here today. I'd love to hear it. What do you folks know about Hell Creek? Thoughts on it? No worries at all. So this is a section that is now mostly badland environments. And when I say badland, I mean an area that doesn't have a lot of vegetation cover, tends to be pretty open and exposed to the elements. Why do you think this is a good area to look for fossils? Erosion, absolutely. Because there's not very much vegetation, this landmass is going to be quite open to the elements. There's going to be a lot of erosion due to wind, due to water, and due to other elemental effects. I don't know if any of you have ever gone fossil hunting before, but I will also tell you, it's a lot easier to spot a fossil sticking out of a barren landscape than it is if you were trekking through a forest with a lot of vegetative cover. Vancouver Island, for example, amazing fossilization here, really difficult to find it in many cases because of how much of our landmass is covered in beautiful, beautiful vegetation. In the Hell Creek Formation, though, if we have a peak, it was a little bit more of a subtropical climate. You could expect a lot of cycads, ferns, really fibrous material, very, very humid environment from that internal seaway that you saw down there. I'm mentioning a lot of different plants. I'm not mentioning grasses, though. Grass, while it's relatively ubiquitous in most terrestrial landscapes today, is not something that we tend to associate with most prehistoric environments. Grass only evolved right at the end of the Cretaceous period, about 66 to 70 million years ago. I know you're probably wondering, I came here for dinosaurs. Why is this lady talking about grass? But I like to bring this point up because it drives home the idea that the landmass has changed so much in this time. And that is important for understanding why we have the evidence that we do have. The wildlife of Hell Creek. You can see some pretty exceptional critters up here, probably some fan favorites. You've got my favorite dinosaur, the Pachycephalosaurus, tucked right down here. You've got Ankylosaurus, the ankle breaker. You've got that big, beautiful Mosasaurus, another creature that you can find fossils of actually right here on Vancouver Island. You've got Tyrannosaurus rex. You've got our lovely Triceratops, which you're allowed to like even if your name is not Sarah. I am learning today. We absolutely love that. I do want to be clear on this, though. These creatures, there's a good chance this isn't exactly what they looked like. In the fossil record, we tend to just get the hard stuff that's left behind. We tend to get the bones rather than all of the material that tells us what these animals would have looked like on the outside. So while yes, maybe Odontosaurus had beautiful rainbow colors on their neck to attract mates or to display or to scare away predators, they could have been completely drab. We truly, truly do not know at this point in time. But all of these creatures were not just existing in the Hell Creek environment. They were living, breathing animals. So they were hunting or foraging food. They were being chased by predators. They were trying to attract mates. These were living, breathing animals who had their own social structures in the time that they were alive. Go here. They were doing all of the things that modern animals do today until one day that changed. There was one day about 66 million years ago where if you were a creature in Hell Creek, you could have looked up into the sky and seen a very, very large, bright light. Over the course of about 60 hours, that light would start to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it actually impacted Earth. 66 million years ago, there was a meteorite, just like what I have in my hand here. But rather than being small enough to fit in the palm of my hand, it would have been about the size of Mount Everest. That meteorite was 10 to 12 kilometers across at the time of impact. When meteorites hurtle through space, they lose a lot of their mass because they get burnt up. These meteorites are moving up to speeds of 43,000 kilometers an hour, which is about 20 kilometers every single second. This is fast. This is extremely bad news right off the bat. Now, some of you have probably seen some dinosaur documentaries before or read books. What happens first when a meteorite of that caliber crashes into the Earth? Volcanic activity, absolutely. A meteorite of that size, of that speed, of that intensity is going to cause seismic activity. That means you're going to have volcanic eruptions across the entire world. You're going to have earthquakes. You're going to have massive tsunamis, massive ocean waves screeching across the globe. You're also going to have some effects that follow these massive seismic activities. When that meteorite first crashed into the Earth, it also caused a lot of smaller rocks to break off and get projected back into the atmosphere. That's not great. We don't love that right off the bat, but of course it gets worse. With mass extinction events, it always gets worse. These rocks were not just regular everyday rocks that you're going to see on the side of the road or at the beach on Dallas Road. These are going to be incandescent rocks that are on fire, that are projected up into the sky. Are they going to stay just hanging out in the atmosphere? Nope, absolutely not. The dinosaurs are not quite lucky enough for that. Instead, all of these incandescent rocks are going to start to rain down. So on top of all of this seismic activity, you now have these fiery rocks raining across the entire world. That is going to cause wildfires across 70% of Earth's surface, across Earth's landmass, I should say. Is that it, or does it get worse? It gets worse, absolutely. Y'all are quick learners here. I love to hear it. Now, with all of these fiery debris, all of this fiery rock that we have here, what's going to happen next is we are going to get a lot of smoke and ash and dust from the wildfires covering the entire globe. All of this smoke and ash and dust is going to fill up the atmosphere until it's so dense, the particulate is so dense, the sun is fully blocked out for at least 2 years afterwards. That's not great. That's not ideal for life on Earth. What's going to happen first? Who is going to suffer from a lack of sunlight? Plants, absolutely. As soon as these plants are not able to photosynthesize anymore, we're going to see the food webs in the ocean and on the land absolutely crumble. With no plant material at the base of these food webs, the herbivores, the carnivores, and the omnivores are going to have nothing to provide food for them, or very little to provide food for them. Plants also do something else that's a little bit important for animals. Oxygen, absolutely. We tend to take it for granted because breathing is about as easy as breathing. You do it without even thinking about it at this point. But if suddenly all of that oxygen was gone, or at least significantly lessened in the atmosphere, all of these creatures would be struggling to get enough oxygen to survive. It would be significantly more difficult for them to exist. This is not just animals that live on the land, but also creatures that are going to be living in marine or other aquatic environments. In some cases, it's actually going to be worse for these creatures because oxygen levels are tied into the pH or the acidity. Most creatures that live in aquatic systems, they have a very, very small window of pH that they are comfortable and able to survive in. So if the pH is changing significantly, suddenly you're going to get a massive ripple effect of all of these creatures going extinct very, very, very quickly. After that, since we know that things get worse before they get better, we get to invite a pretty fun guy to the party. Thank you for the pity laugh. We always love that. With fungus, this is a group of organisms that are not new on Earth at any point. The earliest fungus that we found in the fossil record is a full 1 billion with a B, years old in the fossil record. Up in that top corner there, you can actually see a fossil. This one was found in the Northwest Territories, I believe, and this is so small that it's 20 microns is the unit of measurement that we've got there. I'll never fully understand why, but microscopic fossils of fungus don't seem to be quite as popular as massive megafauna like the Tyrannosaurus rex. I don't know why. Maybe somebody has a theory on that one there. The reason that fungus is going to be having quite a good time at this stage in the mass extinction event is because things are going to be a lot colder. They're going to be probably quite humid, and it's going to be dark. They're also not going to have to compete with all of the plant material that used to be filling similar niches in many cases. So fungus is now living its best life at an all-inclusive 5-star resort vacation, no hidden fees for the fungus. They are snacking on all of that delicious, delicious degrading and decomposing material. Not all fungus is going to eat dead material, though. I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. Some fungus likes to go for creatures that are possibly still alive, unfortunately. With a mass extinction event, as you can tell, if you look around at all of the lovely faces around you, mass extinction events do not kill all life on Earth. While about 85% of life on Earth did go extinct because of that massive meteorite, some creatures did survive. Some of the best survival checklist items to help you survive a mass extinction event include being small. If we compare, let's say a sparrow that can easily fit in the palm of my hand, to my lovely Victoria, the Tyrannosaurus rex, who do you think needs more food? Yeah, exactly. Our little sparrow buddy. Who do you think is going to reach adulthood and reproductive age faster? It's going to be that sparrow. Generally, the first year or two of life, they're going to start reproducing. T-Rex doesn't reproduce until about 18 to 20 years old. Who do you think is going to be more adaptable in what they can eat in their diet? Our little sparrow friend. They're going to be able to still find maybe some fungus that's growing. They might be eating roots and decomposing plant material. They might eat cockroaches and other delicious little invertebrates that they can find. Whereas T-Rex, once it has grazed on all of those massive herbivores that have died off for lack of food, they're going to be feeling pretty hungry. It's also a little bit easier for something like a bird to fly away to a new area. If they find that the space that they're in isn't really meeting all of their needs, they might be able to use those beautiful wings, those feathers, to propel themselves to new areas. So we've got small, we've got adaptable, we've got migration. Endothermy is another really big thing on the checklist of helping you survive a mass extinction event. When that mass extinction event occurred, because the sun was fully blocked out, Earth was about 11 degrees Celsius colder. This is where you ooh and ah. Yeah, there we go. Maybe not as dramatic as we may expect, but with something like 11 degrees Celsius colder, if we had that every single day of our lives here in Victoria, I think I'd see a few less shorts and tank tops out here today. If you are a creature that is endothermic or able to create your own heat by either moving your body or using your feathers to insulate or your fur to insulate, you have a much better chance of being able to go throughout your daily metabolic activities. You're going to have a much higher chance of still being able to hunt and forage and reproduce as opposed to something like a reptile whose metabolism is going to slow all the way down. The last piece to help you survive a mass extinction event is a little bit of luck. If you are somebody who goes to the casino and struggles at blackjack, chances are you're not surviving the mass extinction event. I've been telling you a lot about what we see happening during the mass extinction event, and so far you've all been very gracious. You've allowed me to talk and chatter about that, giving you absolutely zero evidence at all. Should we just end the presentation, or would you like a little bit of evidence? Evidence, absolutely. We are science-based humans here. So first off the bat, I like to talk about a little element called uridium. Has anybody heard of uridium here today? No? Okay, you had to think about them though. Maybe it's in the back of your thought pocket there. I love it, I love it. Now, with uridium, this is actually a mineral that is found naturally occurring on Earth, but in very, very, very low concentrations. From about 66 million years ago, at the end of that mass extinction event, we see a layer of uridium across the entire globe. This is what we call the KT boundary, and it's this very, very clear layer of uridium at, I believe the concentrations are about 100 times higher than what you tend to expect from an average sediment sample. So this is pretty good. Would you like more evidence? Yeah, let's do it. I love people who challenge me. Okay, on top of that, we do actually have evidence using gravity maps that show us a little bit about how that impact occurred. So we do know where that big meteorite, the Chicxulub meteorite, hit in the Gulf of Mexico, kind of in the Yucatan Peninsula of that. And we can see that it is under about 1,000 meters of limestone currently, if I'm not mistaken, but we still can tell just based on the density of what's going on there. The next little piece of evidence that helps us piece together that a meteorite impact did cause this and did occur 66 million years ago is a ring of beautiful cenotes. Has anybody been to Mexico before? Yeah, have some of you gone swimming in cenotes? Yeah, amazing, amazing. So cenotes are these pockets, generally kind of underground pockets, where water will fill up into these beautiful, beautiful natural pools. All of these natural pools are caused by pieces of that big meteorite that have broken off and impacted, causing smaller little craters to form and then be filled in and become deeper and deeper over the past 66 million years. You can see, yeah, so that gives you a little bit of idea on the space there. The last piece of evidence that I want to bring to light for this particular mass extinction event is something called the Tanis site. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that the science is constantly changing. The science that I'm about to tell you about here only came to light in scientific papers about 3.5 years ago. So this is really, really, really new evidence that we're looking at here, at least in the grand scheme of things. 3 years may not sound like much to us, but geologically speaking, that's not too shabby by any means. Now, at the Tanis site, which is a fossil dig site about 3,000 kilometers away from the Chicxulub impact site, we find some really compelling pieces of fossil evidence. What do you think you're looking at here? Any guesses? It's a foot. Kind of like a chicken foot. Yeah, I love where your mind is at. Absolutely. My dogs like to snack on those. I've seen a lot. Looks just like a dinosaur leg. What we've got here is a full leg of a dinosaur called the Thesiclosaurus. The god lizard is what that name refers to. This fossil is really, really lovely because it is almost perfectly preserved. You can actually still see the scale imprints on the toe pads, on the little toe beans of this dinosaur. Oddly enough, it seems as though this leg was just fully ripped off the body of this dinosaur. Now, I'm not going to say with 100% certainty that this was caused from a mass extinction event, but the evidence tells us that if it was caused by something else, if it was caused by a massive predator attacking this animal, we'd probably see some bites of that. And realistically speaking, not very many other things could cause a full limb to be ripped off of an animal that's probably about the size of a small car. Not too shabby by any means. The next thing that we like to draw the attention to on this one is the fact that since those scales were so perfectly preserved, we think that there would have been a very, very fine sediment, likely something like volcanic ash or ash of some sort that covered it and was compressed down, causing all of those scales to be so beautifully preserved. Let's go back one more. With this tannocite as well, we see a couple other pieces of evidence that really help tie together the idea that we can see the day of that mass extinction event. The second thing I'm going to mention, it's something called tektites. Has anybody heard of tektites before? Oh, y'all are going to love this. It's little glass beads. Yay! Very, very exciting. So, in the gills of fish at this tannocite, they were found with these little tiny tektites or glass beads embedded inside their gills. Oohs and ahs, right? Very, very exciting. It does get better, I promise. With these little glass beads, these little tektites, we can look at them chemically and radiometrically, and we can see that these little glass beads didn't start in North Dakota. They started at the site of impact, at the Chicxulub meteorite crater site. And we know this because we can match all of those different signatures, chemically and radiometrically. So what happened is when that meteorite hit, the force of it and the heat of it caused the sand and the sediment in that area to fuse into these little glass balls that then got projected to what is now considered the tannocite. This got projected into the water. The fish swimming around were breathing them into the gills, and they got embedded in there and fossilized inside there. This tells us, almost without any doubt in our minds, that this happened the day that that meteorite actually hit. Yeah, it is pretty exceptional to get to see that. The last piece of evidence from that site, it's a little gory, I'm sorry to say, there was also a turtle, a massive turtle found with a full wooden stake through it. I don't suspect any of the dinosaurs did that, so generally we tend to use that as a piece of evidence. Now, my friends, as sad as it can be to talk about mass extinction events, I do thoroughly enjoy getting to bring them up because this is something that we get to think about in terms of why we are able to be here today. If this big mass extinction event had never occurred 66 million years ago, I probably wouldn't be getting to look at all of your lovely faces. With the time of the dinosaurs coming to a close, it allowed for mammals in particular to grow and flourish in all of these different ways. I mentioned a little bit earlier to keep in mind the fungal aspect. Mammals are a lot more suited to deal with something like fungus because of that endothermy, because of that fact that we do generate our own heat. And generally speaking, our body can fight off fungal infections. Reptiles do not have that bonus in their lives. Generally, if reptiles get fungal infections, their bodies cannot fight them off. So while it's sad to say that fungus was probably a big part of taking out the dinosaurs, the dust and the fungus at the very least, it did allow for all of us mammals to grow and change into all of the creatures that we are today. As the wonderful Ian Malcolm likes to say, life finds a way, my friends. Now that is about all I have for today. I am more than happy to answer any questions that might be popping up. Ooh, yes, my friend. That is amazing. And that is a great thing to point out. As I mentioned before, Vancouver Island is actually rife for fossils. There's a lot of really amazing sites. Most of it is going to be plant material or marine fossils. You can actually find some really incredible mosasaurs, big marine reptiles, up in the Courtney Comox area. Yeah, that's a great thing to point out. Any questions I can help with? Yeah. Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know the evidence for sure. Just based on my own experience, though, I would say that areas that are more subtropical or tropical are probably going to bounce back a lot faster. Just because generally the productivity here. So once the dust has cleared, the dust has settled, so to speak. Areas like that are probably going to bounce back a lot faster. That's a really, really great question. That being said, 66 million years ago, Earth looked very different than it looked today, climatically speaking. Like where we have Antarctica today, where it's covered in ice, covered in a very cold material, that used to be a very, very productive site for dinosaurs. There were dinosaurs in Antarctica. We just we struggled to uncover them because, oddly enough, people don't want to go hang out there and dig up dinosaurs out of the ice. I don't know why. I don't know why. Did you have a question as well? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a great thing to point out. Honestly, when it comes to sauropods, let me get back to the Hell Creek one there. When it comes to the sauropods, most of them were Jurassic. Yeah, so Jurassic tended to be the height. There were, yes, in South America and in North America, actually, around the world, there was a lot of sauropods in the Jurassic period. We do tend to see a lot of them kind of fall off during the Cretaceous period. We don't know exactly what the cause of that was, and in some areas, like I believe actually France has some decent fossils of sauropods that are from the Cretaceous age, but in a lot of areas, they either got smaller or we don't see that many sauropods anymore. Yes, I believe so. Fossil sites from China are not where a lot of my knowledge comes from, other than egg fossil sites, but yeah, that's a great thing to point out. Thanks for that. Did I see a question in the back? No? Any other questions? Oh yes, my friend. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I actually love sturgeon. They are one of my all-time favorite fish. I caught one for the first time maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So cool. They look like dinosaurs too in a way. They're all scaly. Part of the reason they probably would have survived is probably because they were able to lower their reproductive rate a little bit. These are fish that are quite ancient, so they're not really they're long-lived. They're very, very long-lived fish. They can live to be 70, 80, 90, 100 years old in some cases. So they can settle for a couple years. If they are reducing their metabolic rate, not eating as much food and not reproducing, that's going to be fine if they're doing that for 10, 15, 20 years. So that's kind of part of the reason. Sturgeon are also, they're kind of filter feeders. So they're actually still going to have a lot of material to eat in terms of like shellfish in particular. So it's, yeah, relatively productive for them. That's a great, great question. They can weather the storm. Same with something like millipedes. Yeah, very much so. Same with like turtles. Turtles got it right so early on. They haven't really had to change in a couple 100 million years. They're a perfect animal, so to speak. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Yeah, so all birds are technically dinosaurs. So they're in the grouping of the theropods, the two-legged, generally carnivorous dinosaurs, and they branched off from the other theropods about 160, 150 million years ago. So birds have actually been birds as we know them today for about 150 million years, at least. I couldn't tell you exactly what kind of birds they would be, just because when you go back that far in the fossil record, you get a lot of debate over exactly what point something is a true dinosaur and at what point something is an avian dinosaur or a bird. And the one thing I will say about paleontologists is they love drama. They are rife with a little bit of sass when it comes to the contention in the fossil record. Yeah, so that's a great question. Yeah, and also, I should also say, a lot of birds, their bones are pneumatic or hollow, as are many theropods, if not most theropods. So since birds are going to be a lot smaller than the traditional dinosaur, their bones aren't going to fossilize as well. This is true of pterosaurs as well. The flying reptiles, the winged reptiles, they're not true dinosaurs, but they have extremely hollow bones. So even though some of them could get massive, where they would realistically be as tall as this ceiling inside here, the same size as a giraffe, their bones are not fossilizing well because there's not as much material. Yeah, really great question. Any other questions I can help with? All right, well then thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I am here for any other questions too if you wanted to come up and ask anything. I do have a meteorite if you would like to have a touch or a hold of it. And then, as I said, my colleague Bentley out there, he's great. He's a wealth of knowledge. I would save your toughest questions for him, honestly. You can see what answers you get out of him. But thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it, folks. Have a great rest of your night.